Look, if you had one speech at Berkeley to show the world that your Jewish ass ain't no Nazi, do you pay the $10,000 security deposit, or you just stay home with that bitch-ass Tumblr?
Well, listen, the bottom line is that was a rumor. Factually, I was not going to let students, any fascists, keep me off campus. That was simply not going to happen. As it relates to the Tumblr, of course, it's a quality item. It's double wall insulated, and we're actually selling it out for a very. That seems at the very least inappropriate to play while I am finishing out.
Hey!
Coverage for all, no discrimination based on pre-existing conditions.
At long last, Mr. President, here is your Emmy.
Famous rapper who once bragged about God made me bulletproof was shot and killed yesterday. Turns out that actually God sided with his notorious foe, MC armor-piercing bullets. Do not go further without consent. But Your Honor, I couldn't know, said all the rapists who suck at Pictionary. Maybe it's the fact that for Miami you wore a t-shirt of the guy who raped their fan base's moms. Oh! No.
I can show you my wang.
It's amazing how smart you have to be to create something that stupid. Yes. That's not going to get trending. That's the unenthusiastic maracas.
Ah.
Favorite.
I thought I recognized it.
It's a favorite on Hot Mexican Days. Hey, before we get to we have four guests today, technically.
Sort of, yeah.
Question of the day, do you believe that the roles on the left and right have swapped on free speech since the 60s? We'll be talking about that because Free Speech Week is coming up, or has the left never really cared about free speech? No. I maintain that it was more of a pro-drug, anti-war movement than it was so much about speech in the 60s. And second question, on a scale of 1 to Mel Brooks, how Jewish is Ben Shapiro? Producing with me in Video Studio always says, Not Gay Jared. Follow him on Twitter at NotGayJared. He's not gay. Me it is. Credit with your comments, your thoughts, your photoshops. I fulfill my legal obligations. Drawing conclusions. Are we good?
We're good enough. Good enough. That'll do.
Gerald at G Morgan Jr. is here. What's the wine of the day, Mr. Sommelier?
The wine of the day is Dow
Please
Cabernet
don't ever let
Sauvignon.
this man recommend a film. We've talked about this yesterday. Notorious. This man recommended Notorious.
Hey, I got a new recommendation for you.
Yeah.
Notorious 2. It's out. You should see.
Yeah. It's just one static shot of a grave.
It's a big apology for Notorious 1.
On HBO, if you've never seen it. Well, I don't know if it's an HBO film, but it's terrible. And I was a Straight Outta Compton fan. It's 2 hours of my life I will never get back. We spent half the show on it yesterday, but I'm still sore about it.
30 seconds of my life I'll never get back. We're even.
But we'll be talking about free speech tonight. We'll be talking about before free speech week, kind of getting the history of it, why Vox hates free speech, along with Jimmy Kimmel. We are going to have Clint Howard on the show.
Yes.
That's always fun.
In an incredible
provided
way.
that we actually get him on the show and he gets his stuff working.
Yeah.
We're going to have McElhinney and Phelim McAleer. They have their Ferguson play going into the heart of Manhattan. And then we have Senator Rick Santorum talking about the new Cassidy bill that has everyone up.
Big deal.
All wee-weed up, as President Obama said.
Patties in a bunch.
Just made up words. And if you say that's not a word, that's racist. So good lineup. Before we get to that, we have to address the angry elephant in the room. A leaked video that went viral of MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell. Do we have a clip of his? Do we just have the first clip?
Well, today President Trump visited Texas, but he forgot to bring any empathy with him. But he did bring a hat that is for sale.
58 seconds.
What's going on? Why am I losing this? Why don't I have sound? All right, it's back. Someone's pressing buttons and turning my sound off. Who's asking for a Labor Day rundown in my ear? Someone in that control room is out of control.
So it's my heart goes out to the guy. I see it. You can see the rage building up.
Yeah.
And
We've all been there. You want to sympathize.
Well, I will say this. When I was at Fox News, I remember I used to be when you were in the newsroom, they didn't even have cubicles. And they would just have people, like it was a call center, answering phones behind you on their keyboards. And they were just obnoxious.
Yeah.
Whereas coming from the voice acting world, people are, it's on air, quiet on radio.
Right.
So, of course, listen, the guy's still a dick. Don't get me wrong. But it changes the context a little bit. We've actually acquired exclusive audio from his earpiece, and there's a little more empathy.
Well, today, President Trump visited Texas, but he forgot to bring any empathy with him. But he did bring a hat. A hat that is for sale.
I don't know, something about
58 seconds.
What is he saying about a hat?
What's going on? Why am I losing
Are
this?
you not hearing us?
Why don't I have
We're
sound?
trying to wonder where you got that hat, sir. We didn't put that in the show map at all.
All right, it's back.
Yeah.
Someone's pressing buttons
No, we're
and
trying to
turning
press
my
buttons
sound
to
off.
make sure you can hear.
Who's asking for a Labor Day rundown in my
No, we're
ear?
trying to let you know there's no story about a hat.
Someone in that control room is out of control.
No, we're trying to help you. You're out of control. You're out of control. There are people who are trying to make sure that you get your story straight, and you're talking about stuff that we didn't even put in the run.
20 seconds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. Really professional.
10 seconds.
What, did you just shit yourself? I think you shit yourself. You just shit yourself before going live. There it is. Go.
So the president went to Texas. Eve Perez, who had been missing since Sunday morning.
Perez. Yeah, Perez is how you say it.
You have insanity in my earpiece.
No one's you're pronouncing it insanely. You have any idea how many Latinos
It's not my earpiece. It's somebody talking on our lines.
Yes, we're talking to you because you're an asshole. I'm trying to pronounce it Perez or you're going to look like a
10
moron.
seconds.
You going to shit yourself again?
5, 4, 3.
And you go now, son of a bitch.
President Trump did not mention Sergeant Perez.
Sorry.
That
was
McAleer.
today's lead. All right. Moving on. Hillary Clinton giving it. She's still in the news. We have to address it, and then hopefully, I don't. Listen. Anyone can get hit by a car. She gave an interview to Mike today, complaining about misogyny and double. So this is a quote. The clip. We won't subject you to the actual video clip of Hillary Clinton.
Thank you.
She said, "We need to end the double standard," adding that too often women are seen as angry when they advocate for causes they believe in, rather than as passionate.
Well.
No, it's just you.
It's just you.
I don't. This is the thing that what really bothers me, and I know my wife about people like Hillary Clinton. Stop conflating all women with you. Aretha Franklin. No one's upset about her passionate singing, talking about RESPECT. No one cares.
No.
Rosa
We
Parks'
applaud.
passion. Everyone applaud her. Sarah McLachlan. She's passionate about dogs. She doesn't complain that you didn't adopt a dog because she's a woman. She just gets it done. Every time I turn on the TV, and you know what I say? Hey, listen. I wish it didn't play during my children's cartoon, but I appreciate your passion, Sarah McLachlan. You're the woman, Hillary, who legally had people killed and lost the most winnable presidency ever, okay? So maybe it's just you. Yeah, you're going to say
She's the Michael Jackson of politics. Like, maybe she served a purpose at one point. No, she didn't. She had another genius. But she's just a leech on society that will not just go away.
Well, she had her moment. She had her moment, and she missed it, and she just doesn't know how to deal with it.
She has had nothing but moments.
No, I mean,
her whole life
her
has
president.
been moments.
I mean,
served
think about
up
this.
to her. She became a senator when she got an apartment just outside the borderline for 2 weeks.
Listen,
I'm gonna fight for my people of New York. Hot sauce. Hot sauce.
I get it. But she's like, oh, the first black president. Of course, the only thing that could trump the first woman president, first black president, and then Donald Trump. And she's like, I got it. This is it. What?
This is my time.
Lost.
I know.
I think this is like normal people would go into a home at this point and just be crazy in a padded cell, but she gets to write books.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bernie, I think that's where they put him at night. It's like a parking garage. Someone just carts him into a padded room. He walks in and goes, healthcare's a human right.
How much Saudi debt is she in that she has to keep doing these circuits to raise all these money?
I don't know, but listen,
they got her by the balls.
It makes sense that she gets all their money. She's the only one. She's the only one brave enough to go in because she knows she's not getting sexually assaulted. Everyone else in open season. Bernie Sanders is crazy to me. Like, he's so crazy that I feel as though he would be just an expert in escaping straitjackets.
Oh yeah.
Like, I feel like you'd be surprised.
He's had a lot of experience probably too.
Houdini! You're like, well, that makes sense. You've spent some time in these. All right. Why Fortune's most powerful women's list matters more than ever was the headline from Fortune. So that's why our stuff matters more than all of our. We matter. So included in this was a list, the top 50. They do it every year. Most powerful women in the world and all of their accomplishments. Not included on their list of accomplishments. Pull-ups. Nothing more. So
gonna be pissed.
Netflix was forced. This was something else to pull an episode of their children's show, Maya the Bee. Was that an American show or just a Canadian show? And now I know it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it was. My nephews watched it for a little while.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, no, when I was in the early '90s.
Oh, okay.
We had it
they
in Canada.
watched the Netflix version.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So Maya the Bee, when a mother spotted a very lewd image. If you didn't catch it there the first time, if you can see that, right there. Now, some people they're trying to argue, was this okay? Yeah. Listen, and all this proves is that artists, it doesn't matter how good they are, they just love drawing dicks.
Yeah.
Okay? Period.
It tells all this time. It goes, all the greatest Disney films of all time. The classics.
I have the VHS of the original Little Mermaid, where it's just like a gold-plated apparatus.
And that priest, that horny priest.
Little Mermaid?
That's true.
Little Mermaid.
Yeah, he had the bulge there. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
So I feel like these artists get so bored with doing some of these children's things. They're like, how far can we push this? How obvious can it be?
You're missing it. You're missing it. From the kid in his high school yearbook all the way to the greatest artist. Just artists love drawing Donagers. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how skilled they are. So you can look throughout history and see this to be true. No,
fine.
you're wrong.
Fine.
You're wrong. Look, it's Sistine Chapel right there. Okay, listen.
You're wrong.
That's not necessary. Could have easily put a fig leaf there.
Could have.
That's true. Yeah, and that's pretty small.
Chose to. Yeah, it is striking.
By the way.
So everyone knows, there are those that you know, but there are some that a lot of people don't know. For like the Mona Lisa, everyone knows what that looks like. But if you zoom in, you look a little closer. Look, dick, right there. People don't see. It's just you have to have it. It's like the magic eye. You have to look and kind of.
It's like I Spy. You kind of like.
That's why they don't let you close enough to the painting.
Right.
So
you have to
that's
get
where the rope is.
If you
far
can get
away.
closer, then you need to defocus to kind of do the Rain Man glaze. That's how you see magic eyes. So you have the Mona Lisa, and then something else people even know, like Picasso. We know because he did all kinds of weird things. But a lot of people don't know. They don't see. If you look at Picasso, you look at his signature. Even look, you zoom in. People don't. It's a dick. They have since the beginning of time. And there is nothing to be ashamed of. The beauty of we've celebrated the female form, so Maya the Bee should be able to celebrate the male form.
You get your hats, your pussy hats.
The kids would have never seen that.
We get dicks and Picasso.
They would have never seen that.
I'm pretty sure some kid would have seen that.
No. You had to zoom in to really see it.
Well, they're watching it on their iPads now. They're not watching, they're not popping in a VHS tape.
This is HD 4K stuff, Gerald.
Yeah.
All right.
This isn't Fight Club where they're putting
Someone's gonna be like, hey, I have a print of the Mona Lisa, and it doesn't. It's like, because yours is a counterfeit.
That's right.
Amazon is now reviewing their website after algorithm suggests bomb-making ingredients. So this is helpful. Thank God they just bought Whole Foods. This makes me feel good about society. The ingredients, which are legal to purchase, were included in a frequently bought together section of the listings that included materials like ball bearings, ignition systems, and detonators.
Just the classics.
Just a suggestion from Amazon.
Sometimes the algorithm gets you. And snuck up on you.
Watch it under pressure cookers for good fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Jeez.
And then just put it in the back of a car. There was I think Nick DiPaolo told us about that. He
That
saw a
was
pressure
really
cooker.
dark.
Remember, he saw a pressure cooker in the back of a car, and he called the cops. And he was like, "Listen, there's just a pressure cooker."
Just Asian, wasn't it?
No. Well, first off, he was
was Asian.
profiling.
Was there duct tape around
There
it?
was a bunch of weird stuff.
And wires,
Anyway, I will have him on to
antennas?
talk about it soon. But of course, so this opened up an entire investigation to Amazon. If you haven't been following this, but this isn't actually the only case of this.
No.
Really?
No,
There's other malicious use of the platform.
It's just the algorithms.
Yeah.
They're a neural net processor. They're a learning computer. So the algorithms.
I love that.
They've also suggested, for example, customers who bought bed sheets. It suggested you might also purchase SPF 300, Best of Limp Bizkit, and Tiki torches. and a big problem with this was enabling location services if you were in Charlottesville.
Gotta turn that part of your phone off.
If you're driving a
Gotta turn it
Challenger.
off.
Exactly.
Because now I can warn you while you're driving. It's like, are you in a Dodge Challenger? Do you want a tiki torch? Damn it, Siri.
Stop it.
Yeah, I do. That's a
just
pretty
a
good
nice
deal on
phone.
tiki torches.
One click buy. There we go.
Frequently purchased again. Also, if you were buying teddy bears, it suggested lollipops and window tint, which I didn't even know was a purchase you could make.
They got everything.
I didn't know you could purchase window tint. And it depends. It goes, by the way, state to state law. Depends where you're allowed. And if you were purchasing the Ryan Gosling Criterion Director's Box Set, it suggested dark chocolate and industrial strength Midol, which, when you think about it, isn't really like, it's not dangerous.
It's just really sad.
Helpful.
It's very but it's also
very sad.
It's also relieving.
It is.
Midol.
The robots are trying to help us. They're not here to kill.
Do you think people
No,
realize
they're
that
self-aware.
Midol's a sponsor?
They're
Do you think they
self-aware.
know? We fit that in, right? We fit that in pretty well.
That's pretty smooth.
Thank you,
nice.
thank you, Midol.
Just feathered it right in there.
That's awesome.
None of us can judge Clint Howard for being bizarre.
Not at all.
Okay, so Free Speech Week is going to kick off at some point. We're kind of exhausted with it, obviously, because Ben was already there. And now there's going to be Milo and Coulter. Vox wrote an article on this, and I think it is picture perfect. Again, question of the day is, do you think that the right and left swapped roles on free speech? I don't think so. We've talked about that with Rubin or Sargon. Like, well, I'm a classical liberal. I don't think, if you mean classical liberal, you're going back all the way to, Jefferson, fine. Yeah. But I think people think, when they think JFK is classical liberal, no. So Vox wrote this article, and it is just, it's picture perfect proof, okay? So right away, what should throw you for a loop is, free speech is in quotes. That's kind of a red flag. Not just Free Speech Week. You scroll through, it says, when conservatives talk about free speech. What? And there's no capitals on free and free speech. So it's not like you're saying, okay, it's that we're using this as a noun. Right. No, they just free speech. They're hedging their bets. So right away in Vox, they write, one of the reasons people are so opposed to these free speech events is because these conservative activists often use the mantle of free speech to say some really bigoted, offensive things. Okay, so they do their obligatory First Amendment, but really, and then they go right there, right into the condemning the speech. And they say again and again, people told me how much they resented not being able to speak their minds, though none of them wanted to articulate what exactly they were holding in. Well, how about they didn't want to articulate it? Because you were going to say that they were using it to say really bigoted, offensive things before they said anything. Call it a hunch. Then they go on to say in the same article on Vox, some liberals have argued that this conservative defense of free speech is really a ruse to say all sorts of racist, sexist, and other bigoted things, which is really just it's a repeat of the first quote that I read.
It's almost like a summary.
But they felt the need to reiterate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why could conservatives possibly? Why could they possibly want to avoid you? This is why polls aren't accurate. People are afraid because they're going, what do you think about Donald Trump? Oh, shoot. If I answer, he's going to say he's going to take this as seriously bigoted. He wrote about it twice.
It's true.
Wrote it 2 times in that article, put free speech in quotes.
Like the only thought that I have coming across my head is something racist or sexist that I could say out loud.
It shows their contempt for free speech. And by the way, as far as why are they afraid of being silent? There are plenty of examples. Just in the last week, you have Milo, you have Ben Shapiro, you have Ann Coulter. It's nonstop. Yeah. And this is because you've preemptively tried to silence conservatives with the accusation of bigotry. This is nothing new. Now, here's something. The left only obviously has liked free speech when it benefits them. Yeah. And we saw that when it was Code Pink. Remember with George Bush? Yeah, the right, free speech. Okay. Now, it's true that the left championed free speech, or the term free speech, this sort of free speech movement, started in Berkeley, right, against the Vietnam War in the 60s. Okay. Now, I maintain that was really just more of an anti-war, pro-drug movement. If you actually go back and read the literature, sure, it was called free speech. It was called the free speech movement in Berkeley, okay? But it was more the free love movement, the feminist movement. If you look at what they were actively fighting for, it was never about free speech. As a matter of fact, you can still find plenty of examples of them being offended and not wanting people to say what they thought were hateful things. They maybe didn't use the terminology hate speech. So this is what I want to hear from other people. A lot of people think that, well, it was the catalyst, was Berkeley, the free speech movement. That's actually not what hippies were about. I also find it ironic they have the free speech circle in Berkeley. We used to have it. It was called America.
It was called America.
It's coast to coast, right?
But they haven't supported free speech much.
No, and it's almost like people just take it at such face value. They just, there's really a problem with people saying, well, Black Lives Matter is against hate and bigotry. That's what they said on that's on the marquee.
That's what the flyer said. It's
That's
gotta
what
be true.
anti-fascist.
Yeah.
They must really hate fascism. So it's like you got to look beyond just what the title was of the movement because it's
They co-opted it. I mean, they absolutely co-opted it
Well,
just so that they could go and say.
I'm not against, by the way, the free speech movement. If you look
Of
in
course
Berkeley,
not.
when you look at what
No.
happened back then,
Yeah.
and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Reagan was governor, and they weren't allowed to have political activism on
Right.
campus. I get it. I think they were right with that. But the point is, that was never the main component of the hippie movement. It wasn't like there was a huge movement across the country on all these different campuses. Campi? I'm always confused
Campi,
about
no
that.
one knows.
So I think one of the things too is I know that we're going back to Berkeley because of the 1960s stuff, but I also kind of think it's because you're going to get some protest occasionally. So I'm okay with don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, as somebody who supports free speech, sometimes I kind of wonder. Did they co-opt it in the 60s? Are we kind of co-opting it a little bit right now just to get something on the news? Milo's a flamethrower. He always has been a flamethrower.
Yeah,
I
but
support his right to do it.
I understand what you're talking about with him and Milo, but
Yeah.
with Milo as an example. But Ben Shapiro wasn't.
No, Ben
you know?
Shapiro wasn't, and nobody. I mean, they went and sat in. I mean, I guess that
or
was
me going to when I went to UMass, or when I was at Cal Poly, I wasn't. That's just why I stopped doing colleges. It was like either I'm going to be able to perform or I'm not. And now we're talking about maybe going back and starting to do colleges again. Me,
There you
Jared,
go.
and Owen, because who cares
Make sure
if
you
they
eat your
boo us
protein.
out? Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't really heard much anything about Antifa and stuff this week
No.
at Berkeley. I don't know if they're just like a little tuckered out, a little spent from their vegan diets,
Well,
or
yeah,
they got the vitamin B going.
They're
Call
scouting
them
for
in a
law
moment.
enforcement. A lot of people
Little
don't
weak.
realize how deep the Antifa stuff goes.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have some insight into that next week. But they haven't supported free speech. If you can say, okay, there was this incident in Berkeley in the 60s. Fine. Any examples since then? I mean, for example, in the 80s, it was Reagan's FCC that wanted to eliminate the fairness doctrine, which controlled freedom of speech of the press. And I know some people say, fairness doctrine, it sounds so good, just like net neutrality. Now, if you want to be consistent on the freedom train, right? Fairness, it was Ronald Reagan. Democrats have repeatedly tried to bring it back. Again, there's no consistency since then. Bring that up as an overlay. Don't you have that as an overlay?
Yeah, it came up.
Oh, I didn't.
it was
okay.
up there.
I didn't see it. So, case in point, too, in Vox, okay, they go on to list the most severe aggressions against free speech from Milo's part. So you can see their own list at Vox. They write this. He repeatedly argued on Real Time with Bill Maher that trans people are disordered, quotes. Yeah, but the DSM-5, the Authority for Psychiatrists, clearly lists gender dysphoria as a mental disorder. I just don't. I mean, so again, they would, if, for example, if they had Milo up there saying, like, he screamed the N-word at the top of his lungs and he said that he wanted to gas the Jews, like, you think someone would say, hey, maybe that should make the cut over him quoting the DSM-5.
Yeah. Some would say a scientific conversation.
No, let's go with that. They write this. He declared his birthday World Patriarchy Day. Ooh,
It's just funny. Come on.
The sting is real.
We've lost our sense of humor.
He's just like the slave drivers in the cotton fields. Then they cite other speakers as hateful and bigoted. Again, you gotta one bright spot, Berkeley in the 60s. Anything since then? This is Vox. So this is not just Yiannopoulos. Several other attendees have a history of making hateful, bigoted remarks. All right, I'm prepped for it.
There you go.
Bannon. Steve Bannon has repeatedly backed anti-immigrant causes. By the way, we need to also have that liberal lexicon. Anti-immigrant means illegal immigration.
Yes.
Let's be clear. So let's
Undocumented citizens.
His
They prefer.
hateful, bigoted remarks. He's repeatedly backed criminal causes. All right, you be the judge. Coulter has similarly taken hardline anti-criminal immigrant stances over the years. Pamela Geller runs an anti-Islam blog. I mean, that it goes on to say she supports the Muslim ban. But when you're talking about hate speech, you're like, she runs a Tumblr.
So saying PBS is a TV channel. Oh my gosh! It's just facts.
The fact that someone runs an anti-Islam blog, what they mean by anti-Islam is anti-Sharia law, anti-violations of all the other rights that you claim to support. That kind of a blog. And by the way, and it's a blog. I mean, this is, and the only reason that these people know about Pamela Geller is because angry Muslims tried to kill her in Texas. And so they decide to give her more guff and side with the people, the ideology of folks who've tried to kill her. Hey, I wonder why she might possibly have an issue with Islam. Can anyone think of it? and supported Trump's Muslim ban, which, by the way, is not a Muslim. We haven't talked about it in a long time. You know why?
No.
Because it turned out it wasn't a Muslim ban.
Was not a Muslim ban.
It was in the news for a week, like Russia for a week. So this is what's important. When the left says, yeah, free speech, but, and you see this from Vox, by the way, and Vox is constantly used as a source, but YouTube just cannot trend Vox enough, cannot feature them enough. Snopes, PolitiFact, Vox, they're used as these beacons. Remember, we've talked about this before. The Southern Poverty Law Center of unbiased truth. And Vox is effectively making the claim here, if you actually read what they're saying, that being against radical Islamic terror and supporting reasonable legal immigration policies is now somehow hateful and bigoted. And if you don't want to talk to them about it because they just said you might be hateful and bigoted, you really are violating free speech. Yeah, Gerald,
I think they're missing the free part of speech. Even if all of that is true, it is still free speech for a reason. It's not free speech according to you. It's free speech. They can say it. Just choose not to listen.
You kind of started out with a bumper sticker slogan and didn't know where to take it. Isn't that what happened there?
A little bit.
Freedom isn't free. Oh, I gotta say more than that.
He didn't take over.
No, you're right. But it is one of the simplest things in the world. Either free speech is absolute or it's not.
Absolutely. Not just when you agree, when it's your speech.
And that's the whole point, is when you don't
loves-
agree with it. That's when it counts.
And shut up about the yelling fire in a crowded theater, okay?
It's the dumbest thing.
All that tells me when you make that argument is that you're likely a mongoloid.
Who uses Bing.
Yes. Yeah, you're probably still typing
AOL.
on a Word document that has that bent back paperclip. Did you mean to say?
I hate that paperclip.
Microsoft
He's
Paint.
such a little pretentious.
Yeah. You have that purple gorilla going across your screen to search. What was his name? Some bonsai buddy?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know,
remember
but
that.
Harambe
gosh.
has a replacement. We never talked about the important things.
Early internet was
rough
just
days.
absolutely awful.
How did we survive?
Put it this way: if you say, "Hey, but speech doesn't allow you to yell fire in a crowded theater," first of all, it's just so silly. Yes, it does actually. If I'm in a theater and I say, "Nah, fire," because there's a funny fire scene in that movie. It's fine. Now, if I yell fire pointing to the alarms to try and get somebody to pull the fire alarm and people run out of that theater and someone gets hurt and trampled, it is the call to action. That's not about speech. It is so elementary that if you actually make that argument, I think you probably still use Ask Jeeves. We'll be back, right, with Clint Howard. We'll make sure we get him during the break. Do we have him?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Go on, Crowder, get some.
Who's this queer fella on the piano?
Damn it, Roy, that's Owen Benjamin. He's a trained musician and comedian.
I don't like him. Yankee motherfucker.
You better watch yourself, Roy. That man is a classically, professionally trained pianist. He can play Bach.
Fuck queer.
Colton, I'm classically trained too, you know. Damn it, Josephine, you don't know shit about music. I do too. I almost got my degree at Juilliard. Listen. You sound like shit, Josephine! You sound like shit, Josephine! Yeah, okay, well, hold on. Now, Josephine, you wouldn't know classical comedy if it crawled up in your sorry fat ass and died in it!
Yeah, fat ass bitch!
Okay, well now, I get it, but I got you. You don't even have no fucking degree, Josephine! I told you I was one credit short before I had to have the baby. See, that's the difference between you and me, Josephine. You ain't got no certification. I went through the process required to become a certified reverend. Colin, you just bought that on the internet. Damn it, Josephine! I'm an ordained minister doing the good work of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
You blaspheming bitch!
Okay! Colin, when are you gonna bring home a paycheck? Damn it, I done told you I deal in the currency of lost souls, Josephine!
And his license is suspended.
Would you shut the fuck up, Roy?
All right, let's just go. He has no social media to plug.
Because he doesn't
What
need
in the actual hell? So Clint Howard, you knew you had an interview. First off, we're glad that you made it today. I know you were going to be yesterday. Everything's good? Everything's okay?
Yeah, it was. My phone was having a little trouble. Gee, I wonder how that happened.
Yes. Well, we heard that you'd been torn apart by a pack of wild dogs and wished you a swift recovery. So we're glad to see that you're still standing.
I was in North Korea.
Yes.
Got a little scratched up, but I'm fine.
You and Dennis Rodman, you're going to be our ambassadors. Yeah, is that...
What a country. What a country. Can you imagine the pride of, like, supporting the North Korean lacrosse team?
Explain. I mean, are they, I don't think they... yeah, explain.
They probably don't play lacrosse. Do they have dog racing? I know they have people.
I know they have dog eating racing contests.
Yeah, it's kind of like hot dog festivals, but...
Yeah, except they eat it's dog meat eating festivals.
Just dogs.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Pretty soon they're going to have, what do they call him? The Supreme Leader?
Yeah, the Supreme
They're
Leader.
going to put him on the menu here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think so. I think he might put himself on the menu. Okay, so there we go. We can. I was going to ask you why your weekend. Do you have strong opinions on North Korea? You know, Donald Trump went before the UN said we might completely destroy them. Is Clint Howard on the decimate train?
Doesn't President Trump sound like he's playing with like one of those big model railroad sets from time to time?
Yes. Yeah. North Korea.
We'll blow it up. I'll go down and get some gasoline and we'll burn those soldiers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you could pick worse places to burn, right?
I don't know.
All right.
I'll tell you what. If you go to Google Maps and just see what North Korea looks like from a few miles up, even though, you can see South Korea from a fairly close distance, and then they make you back up, at least the consumer version, they back up. And North Korea doesn't exactly look like, the hotbed of spa and leisure activities.
No, that's just Clint Howard's house, apparently. Is this at your abode?
Oh, yes. This is my, not to get cute about this, but my mother, 14 years ago on her deathbed, was pleading with me like I've never heard anybody say, you got to get a jacuzzi.
What's cute about that?
Well, she was on her deathbed.
Yeah, that's not cute. That's horrifying, Clint.
Well,
way to bring it down.
She desperately wanted her son to have a jacuzzi. See, I have very much her body. And, I have 2 artificial hips. She had 1.
Okay.
Ron's got a horrible hip.
Is this from years of football practice, just the wear and tear?
No, just being a bloodline of a couple of Hicks.
The banjo from Deliverance is playing somewhere down the lineage, you're saying?
Well, actually, Hicks is more like farmer.
Okay, that's hillbilly. So a little bit
hillbilly.
Offensive.
Jethro. Well, no, Jethro would be hillbilly.
Yeah.
I'll try to figure a great Hick. Well, my dad, he's now a sophisticated Hick.
Yeah.
Because he's had all these years in the business and he's managed to navigate and he's an absolute angel. Mm-hmm. But he's a Hickish angel. When he was starting out, knowing what I know of him, mm-hmm. I would have given him no chance, not even 1 percentage point.
Yeah.
To make it in the business. And he says it was luck.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's something else besides luck involved. No.
We almost lost the phone there.
Effect.
Yeah.
That was a special effect.
Well, okay, I'll take it.
Crackerjack team of assistants.
Well, hey, speaking of special effects, like this looks like the jacuzzi from Alien. It looks like a gamer's chair equivalent of a jacuzzi. What do you have going on there?
Well, I got to be careful because does the FCC have anything to say about what pictures get revealed?
We don't care, honestly. Just don't send it to Brett Favre because he'll pass it off as his own. I think it...
There's that's the captain's chair over there.
Okay.
And my mom was right. My mom was absolutely right.
You really are naked in there, aren't you, Clint? This is how you prep.
Well, we're not prepping. This is the real deal.
This is the real deal. Man, listen.
The curtain has been raised.
Yes, it has.
And I apparently have not been raised, so we're doing fine.
Exactly. Well, that's why we're comfortable. That's why there's a certain level of intimacy. So is this, I don't know a lot about hot tubs. Did you specifically choose this just because it looked cool, or is there something to this? Because it seems as though obviously you enjoyed enough to do your interviews from there.
Well, actually, this is the first interview. You guys
keep it going. Every time you come on, we'll allow it. But last time you did say you were
mean
going to turn the
jacuzzi?
jet. Yeah, well, I'll get in the jacuzzi with you, but you said you were going to turn the jets off. So I don't know.
Yes, well, yes. You can't do a thing with you can't do an interview with the jets on, because otherwise, then you sound like a guy in an aircraft carrier talking about how Trump is just going to burn all the soldiers in the little army game.
Well, then where are the bubbles coming from, Clint? So let me ask you this. What have you've been sending us pictures from Comic-Con. You know, we can get into politics, but we have Clint. What is life? It seems like you're on the road. You're always doing something. You were one of the busiest men in Hollywood, it seems, except for now.
Well, I'm busy now.
It's true. Thank you.
I'm actually performing my profession right now, which is communicating.
That's true.
So right now, I'm in my glory.
No, that is also true.
Glory. No, you know what? I like to stay busy because idle time is the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
Or idle hands are the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
Whatever that. Not doing nothing is bad for you.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're naked in a jacuzzi with nothing but time on your hands.
Oh, no. Then there'd be plenty of activity. I do have a rubber ducky I could show you later.
I don't want to go straight from that into the rubber ducky.
Anatomically correct rubber ducky.
Let's go back to politics. Let's go back to politics.
Okay, no. I tell you what, I'm doing a couple of personal appearances. I went and did a great horror convention called Horror Hounds.
That was it, yeah.
And it sounds fun. It's like a family.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's the people are goofy and they're, they're horror fans, and there's a few of them by Sunday. They're pretty spun around the floor of the convention. But
I would imagine so.
Generally speaking, what I have noticed is over the years, the genres, especially the horror genre, it's gotten younger.
Yeah.
I mean, wait, hold on a second. I got that backwards. It was younger before.
Okay.
There's a lot more middle-aged people
Yeah.
attending horror conventions now than there was 15, 20 years ago.
That's not that odd. It just sounds like an aging process at that point.
Well, yeah. And you know what? They're the ones with the disposable dollars. And
Yeah.
And another thing, too. I did not overcharge
No.
anybody there because, I looked at the people and I saw, and, these are not the Star Trek people that have flown from Europe to go to the 50th anniversary convention.
Right.
These are people with a few bucks in their pocket. And my job is not to scrape the last $20 bill out of their hand.
Yeah, who's notorious for that is Lou Ferrigno. So I don't know if he's a friend, but he's been known, like, you ask him for an autograph. First off, it's got to be the right print, and he charges a pretty penny.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. Well, some people figure it's show business.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there ought to be a $10 pile.
Yes. Well, okay.
And also,
I don't know what that means.
Well, a $10 pile, it's like the cheapest available photograph you can sell somebody. The policy is, at least my policy is, you need to buy something for me to take a picture with you.
Right.
In truth, the real science fiction convention or the horror hound thing or Comic-Con, it's an opportunity for people to have contact.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they want. And we appreciate. Well, just make sure you obviously put on some drawers when you do that. Let me ask you this.
Oh, I wear long pants.
Yeah.
And I don't go commando. I've learned that's a bad
You can go
thing.
commando.
You don't go commando at a convention.
You can go commando. You just can't tell someone because then it becomes sexual assault and, you're in Bill O'Reilly territory. Let me ask you this. You're not that far, obviously, in Los Angeles, but California, Berkeley, Free Speech Week. I don't know if you've been following this.
I follow Berkeley imminently.
I mean, the free speech. You've heard about this, right? Ben Shapiro was there. Free Speech Week. Ann Coulter and Milo are going. There are all these protests. You've been raised in California your whole life, and I maintain that actually this idea that there was a free speech movement from the left it was never really that active. It was more of a pro-drug, anti-war movement. What do you feel like now seeing these California? It's a totalitarian state where people don't want anything that they disagree with.
Yeah, and the problem is this is not the first time I've seen liberal-minded people co-opt a pretty solid idea,
right,
and run with it, and with the help of the press, all of a sudden, wait. Fascism was never a left thing. It was always a right thing.
Yeah. That's what they thought.
It's amazing. With a little bit of help, the press can the press can create a new narrative. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the left will be the ones that are leading the little people without a voice.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is so full of malarkey, it's embarrassing.
Well, they've lost that, though, now. That's why they've lost the blue-collar worker. They've lost everyone except for the extremists, on campus and in the entertainment industry. Like, when you watch the Emmys, it was just one big take a steaming crap on conservatives fest. What's that like for you? I mean, obviously, working in the industry and having had to attend so many awards shows, it's gotten so bad. Late nights hasn't been funny in years now.
Yes, I'm. First of all, I don't attend that many award shows. An award show is just a commercial for the business, and I feel like that the business has taken care of me and paid me, and I've done real well. But you know what? I don't need to do commercials for them.
No $10 pile for the Emmys.
Oh no! Emmys, that's a 20. That's everything gets doubled. Yeah. That's like Vegas, baby.
Yes, you're going for more than scale.
I just back to the fans. That connection where you can shake their hand and ask their name and BS with them for a couple of minutes and maybe make a joke about the spelling of their name or something, and then stand up and do a picture together. That means something to them.
Yeah.
And the photograph might end up disappearing. Almost like my camera disappeared a few minutes ago.
It did.
But the memory, the exchange, will remain in their minds, and I think that's what's important.
I think that's
I have
a really
one
good
story.
point.
I may have told this. I was in Little Rock, Arkansas, in 1984, going to a minor league baseball game, and they announced that I was in the stands. It was the Arkansas Travelers. I was down there working on a movie called End of the Line, and they announced me, and there was a cheer, smattering of applause, and then slowly but surely people started coming over and having me sign stuff, and I signed like the bottom of the hot dog box, and I signed the inside of a bag of peanuts, that had been ripped open, but people were coming up and having a good time, and I was leaving. It was time to go. It was the 7th inning, and I had a call the next morning. I called the cab. I go, and I have to stop in the old stadium-style men's room to take a leak. And I'm there at the trough, and I'm urinating, and I look down, and I'm hitting my signature.
Jeez.
My signature was on a hot dog box that was in the urinal. And that was a humbling experience.
Maybe the guy just dropped it because, he had one hot dog in one hand and then the other,
No, I think he just kind of said, this.
Yeah. Well,
come on, let's face it. Let's just face reality. First of all, if he really wanted to keep it and he dropped it in the urinal, he would have picked it up.
Yeah, that depends on how determined he is, but I would. Yeah, it looks like something caught your attention there.
Listen, it was just a humbling moment. It was like, 1 minute, everybody was patting me on the back, and the stadium announcer was saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a nice Little Rock welcome to I'm looking down, and I'm like a cow on a flat rock."
Well, don't let that get your spirits down. I've had people actually urinate on me, so this has happened at stand-up clubs, so it could be worse. Yeah.
Wait. You mean in performance?
After performance, yeah. They were. It was more so as they were collapsing drunk.
They didn't like it?
No, they didn't like me very much. I was 19 and there was nothing I could do. I needed new shoes. Clint Howard, don't end this in the listen, everyone here loves you. You're not on Twitter. You don't have any way of knowing how often you're the most requested guest we have. So no one here is pissing on your
seriously, I appreciate that. And I have my little Facebook presence, and it's just, first of all, I enjoy you. And I enjoy the whole team, and I enjoy the fact I can sit here with my cell phone in my jacuzzi and do an interview with a very smart person is, to me, kind of an interesting proposition.
Well, thank you very much. Well, listen, we have to get going because we have Ann McElhinney and Phelim McAleer, and then Senator Rick Santorum. So it's a weird mishmash tonight.
Tell Senator Santorum that Clint Howard, an old FOA'er, we can say that now because they pretty much busted that thing wide open. But Rick came and spoke, and I liked Rick. I mean, I thought Rick was wonderful. I'm a big believer in Rick. I don't think Rick's presidential timber, but hell, I didn't think that Donald Trump was presidential timber, and look who's sitting in the White House.
Yeah, exactly. None of us, if Charles Krauthammer gets it wrong half the time, you naked in a jacuzzi probably haven't got a shot, and neither do I at this chair. But listen, next time we bring you back, let's get you in studio, and we'll make it a party, but pants required.
Yes, and I've got a special snow globe that I want to show you, so we may have to do a special unveiling just for you. It's not you, so don't.
No, I was going to say, we'll make sure we have a crack security quad. That's Clint Howard, and up next, Ann McElhinney, Phelim McAleer. Thank you so much for being with us, sir. That's music.
Yeah! Back to the jacuzzi, boys.
They call him not gay, Jared.
Okay, I missed that one.
But if you're gonna say not gay, does that mean this dude's
Roy,
queer?
why don't you just get on and go home? Don't you have beer at your place?
Nah, I ran out.
I don't. Just take some of my Keystone. Take it back to your house. Get on out here, Roy.
My dial-up won't stream HD, bro. You know that.
Damn it, Roy. Just take my hotspot. Use that for a night.
By the time I get it hooked up, I might as well stay and watch Morning Grinders.
For 8 fucking hours, Roy. Colin, when am I finally gonna get to use the TV? Damn it, Josephine! Didn't you hear our guest, Roy? He's staying to watch Morning Grinders. Why are you such a fucking terrible hostess? That you learn nothing about hospitality. It's a feminine quality that's attractive in your male counterparts. You should fucking learn it. Right, all right, jeez.
So it's cool if I stay?
Don't piss me off, Roy.
And now listen to this.
All right, glad to have our next guest. I should say guests. We've had the Mrs. on before, but never the Mr. And he left me a very sarcastic,
he's a mystery because we talked about him.
A very mocking voicemail. So you have Ann McElhinney and Phelim McAleer on the show. I hope I got both of them correct. Phelim and Ann, thank you for being here.
It's good to be here. Thanks a million, Stephen.
And the mockery was deserved.
It was well deserved, by the way. Here's the thing. I can understand you now. I can understand you in person.
You've been to Ireland. 2 or 3 days in Ireland has you sorted, Stephen.
It's
true.
No.
He can speak fluent English-Irish. Irish-English. American-Irish English.
No, let the man finish. Let the man finish.
It has me sorted and in sore need of Zoloft. When I had conversations with the people in Ireland, it was amazing as to how conservative they lined up on issues. And then they all just said, but I hate Donald Trump. I think Americans are cocky and stupid. I'm like, you have no idea what you just said. You agreed with me on 9 out of 10 issues, but then you somehow think that you're a liberal, and it made me so depressed.
Yeah.
So,
welcome to our country. And that's why we're not in that country, but here.
Well, we're glad to have you. You're a national treasure. So listen, you've done this. I know you've done this play in Los Angeles before. A lot of controversy. And now explain to the audience, you are bringing the Ferguson play to the Heart of Theater in Manhattan, right?
Yeah. We did a stage reading in Los Angeles.
That's right.
People reading the script. 9 members of the cast walked out during rehearsals because the script didn't match what they thought the real story of Ferguson was. So this is a verbatim play. I am only using grand jury testimony. It's only taken directly from the grand jury, and it's the build-up to the shooting of Michael Brown from eyewitnesses, many of them minorities. And the truth is stranger than fiction, but it's also that matches nothing what the mainstream media said. The mainstream media is the real fiction here. So I'm bringing it to Manhattan, right to the heart of Manhattan, to the Urban Stages Theatre. And I was partially inspired, by the way, the way the audiences at Hamilton and the cast at Hamilton treated Vice President Mike Pence.
Yeah. Well, so is this off Broadway, or is it off Broadway, or is it off?
Off Broadway.
Okay. It would have been best if you showcase this at the Apollo. Just have Damon Wayans come out. And up next, oh, shit. So what is the reaction? Because in Los Angeles, you got a lot of flack. And I remember when people spoke with some of these actors or participants, they said, well, I just can't do it. It was too offensive. And they were asked, well, what about the fact that it's based on testimony? And they had no answer. They just said it's too inflammatory. I remember thinking inflammatory to the point of perhaps inciting false riots, you know? So what's the reaction like right now as you bring this to New York?
Well, it's quiet. You know, so far nothing. So far it's quiet, but you know,
it's early days.
It's early days yet.
Yeah.
And by the way, isn't theatre supposed to be inflammatory? You know, if they weren't so busy giving themselves rewards for being brave and courageous, it's actually time for them to be brave and courageous. So let's.
I think it's like an inflammatory.
Yes,
lots of flamers.
Like they'll give an award. It's like Rent is one of the longest running. We're going to give it another award this year. It's about people getting AIDS, having gay sex, and truck stops shooting heroin. They're on borrowed time. Let's move on from this. So it really is. It's. I think you see that with the Emmys. The ratings are. I don't even know what it is with the Tonys, but it is so self-important. To me, what really bothers me, and I think this ties back into the Hamilton issue with Vice President. I was going to say Governor Pence, but it's Vice President Mike Pence. Is just the assumption that everyone agrees with you. You know, he was in there, and it's the assumption that, well, everyone in the audience thinks it's fine. No one would have a problem with me berating the Vice President of the United States.
It was like, exactly as you say, Stephen, it was like at the Emmys, you know, and Phelim and I have had a big conversation about this. It's incredible to me that they would be so, like they're you know, speaking ill of half of their audience, a whole half of their audience, of all these shows that are on, you know, everywhere. Half of the audience are people who think it's a great thing that Donald Trump is the president of the United States.
Right.
And they just completely ignore that. And it's like, just from a commercial point of view, it's beyond belief, you know, how the derangement syndrome that they're living in this kind of really weird world. It's like that bubble where they actually don't know anyone who's voted for Donald Trump, except for they do know people who've voted for Donald Trump. They're too scared to say it because you won't be invited to Thanksgiving or whatever.
Yeah, well, you won't be invited to the next Tonys. You know, it's funny. I think, and I'll even give them some ground. Say, okay, not even half, but let's say there's 20% who are huge Hillary Clinton fans, 20% who are huge Donald Trump fans, and then there's that portion in the middle, like, okay, let's see what happens. It's kind of like Owen Benjamin, our friend, was talking about. He says, you know, there's a small group of people who the left points to with Charlottesville who go, yeah, white people, and then there's the liberals want us to think that all of us need to be white people, but most of America is like, white people. You know, there's this guilt complex, and they use this small radical minority of people who genuinely are racist and try and apply that to Ferguson and then obfuscate the truth. Let me ask you this, because there have been so many since you've started this project, The Play of Ferguson. I mean, just recently, was it at in Georgia? Was it what's the University of Georgia?
Georgia Tech.
Was it Georgia Tech?
I think it's Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. A suicide by cop fire. If you watch the video, couldn't be more clear, where a man is walking toward a police officer with a gun,
out of his mind,
demanding to be shot. Riots. After that, do you feel as though you've been somewhat vindicated of this controversy, considering how many cases have been debunked since the start of it?
Well, I mean, Ferguson is the origin myth for the Black Lives Matter. The hands up, don't shoot. I mean, and it hasn't been debunked.
Funny. I wanted to kind of show you this, guys. The technical guys. I hope they can see that. This is an article from the New York Times from yesterday. Yeah. So after the latest Ferguson shooting, which again, you know, this case hasn't been heard yet. You know, there'll be a lengthy trial, etc. But there has been a lengthy trial, and in a lengthy trial with a proper legal system, you know, the cop was vindicated. And here's the story. But I mean, it's really worth looking at.
I'm not going to lie to you. We can't see it. Your screen just went dark. But if you know what? If we'll do our best to get it up here in the next commercial.
It's a guy. The New York Times have a photograph with a guy with his hands up, don't shoot. At a protest.
What is this, synchronized guesting? You're both. That's a screenshot. That's going to be a GIF right there. All right, continue.
There we go. We can do it again. So basically, this is a lie.
Yeah.
This is a lie. But that lie has traveled the globe.
Many times.
We were here in LA, and by the way, we didn't do this. We didn't buy these tickets ourselves. Somebody bought tickets for us to go to see Bono in YouTube. You know, YouTube. YouTube. Oh, look at me.
Well, actually, he's good friends with Senator Santorum.
Look at me being very middle-aged. YouTuber, it's the you too now. I don't know which one it is now. So,
but he's actually good friends with Senator Rick Santorum, who's coming up next. He's come around a little bit, but he can be a douche, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and I would like the senator, by the way, to please give him some instruction on what actually happened in Ferguson. Because he did his world tour, and during his world tour, one of the pieces, the set pieces, was there was this really, really long stage, and he walked the length of it. Hands up, don't shoot. Hands up, don't shoot. And we're sitting there thinking, you know, it's time for us to go right now. Because he was propagating that lie. Michael Brown did not have his hands up saying, hands up, don't shoot.
He had his hands in the cookie jar at the gas station. His hands used to assault the owner of the convenience store. His hands were used to assault the police officer, try and grab his gun. And his hands were used to run towards the police officer to try and kill him. His hands were never there.
And what is amazing about the play, about the Ferguson play, which is, you know, which we said is verbatim, it's all the words of actual witnesses at the trial. And one of the most powerful moments, and I hope, Stephen, if you're anywhere near New York, if any of the people listening now are near New York, please come.
Give them a date and time right now. Wait, the exact date and time?
From October 19th to November 5th. 16 performances. Manhattan, go to fergusontheplay.com.
www.fergusontheplay.com. And if you can't go, but you believe in what we're trying to achieve here, give us $1. Give us $1,000. Somebody did this morning. God bless them and save them. We're crowdfunding to make this thing happen.
The Manhattan theatrical establishment, they've already said to Mike Pence and all of us, no conservatives welcome here. So I'm saying, I'm here, I'm going there, I'm going into the heart of your city.
And we're telling the truth, which, by the way, might be kind of surprising for some of the people who go to the theatre in New York City.
It could be shocking, it could be inflammatory.
Yeah.
And
oh, inflammatory. Behave yourself.
FergusonThePlay.com. We're crowdfunding it because the establishment won't fund this. They'd rather fund, as you say, rent. Where, oh my God, if you live a terrible lifestyle, you may get AIDS.
Yeah, I know. We had a debate about that. We did I gave my dog AIDS in a sketch. It's okay. Hopper's actually on the way out now, because it was we did a wishbone. We do a history lesson on the AIDS epidemic and how it was a hoax from the media. And this is, again, people don't understand that this idea, and same thing with Ferguson. We've talked about this so much on the show. This idea of focusing on victim culture, and let's say it creates actual victims. So when you lie about AIDS, when you say anyone can get AIDS through any sexual practice, you're just as at risk if you're a non-intravenous heterosexual, drug user. If you're none of those things, what happens is AIDS gets all of this funding. Bono played a huge role in that, and the kid with type 1 diabetes gets a fraction of it because he doesn't have a celebrity campaign. Same thing with Ferguson. What people don't understand is these kids hear this, it gives them license to go out and treat cops horribly, to behave terribly, and then they put themselves in precarious. You create actual victims, and it's not that. No, I know that it's not that you don't care. It's that you care about the real potential victims.
Absolutely, yeah. And that. So we really hope that people come and see the play, and if they can't come and see the play, we really hope that they'll donate to make this happen. You know, this is exactly what our side, if you like. This is what the conservatives don't do. We don't, I mean, I don't know, when was the last time there was a conservative play where the conservative point of view telling the truth on Broadway? You know, it just doesn't happen. And I think the response we've had already, about 25% of the monies raised already, has kind of proved to us that people all over the place, you know, we've had people like literally all over the place. I mean, one of the donors donated, he's American, but he's living in Indonesia. You know, we got those kind of people really believes strongly in what we're trying to do. And we're very proud. And the play is unbelievable, by the way, Stephen. It is unbelievable. Sure. The staged reading was incredible. Ann Coulter was in the front row beside me. Starstruck. And Ann Coulter basically said her biggest problem was that the play didn't have a longer run. Dennis Prager saw it and said it was an unbelievable night of theater. He said it was life-changing, that it actually changed his life. You know, so honestly, it's an amazing night.
October 19th to November 5th. And if you can't come to New York for that, it's FergusonThePlay.com.
And if you come, Phelim and I will be there. There are pints to be had. There's chat to be had.
Absolutely. Well, listen, maybe we can see if we can make it work. And let's see especially if there are any protesters showing up. So that's FergusonThePlay.com. People can go there, donate, help support it. And I'm interested to see what comes of this. And this is like the Irish male-female Diamond and Silk meet Abbott and Costello. It is. Phelim and Ann, thank you so much. We'll have you back soon as the play. We'll see what unfolds.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Up next, Senator Rick Santorum. I might ask him about Bono.
And now, now for Technical Difficulties with Clint Howard, sponsored by Mug Club.
Hang on, give me a second. I've got this tripod. There we go. I'm almost giving you an angle here. Hang on, this would be an $800 grit gaff if I frigging, this is teetering on the edge of Apple disaster here. When you go back and look at clips of Don Knotts doing comedy.
Oh yeah.
There was nobody better ever. As broad as Don was, he. Oh my goodness. Did I lose you?
This has been Technical Difficulties with Clint Howard, sponsored by Mug Club.
Oh, I thought we were still trying to get Clint Howard on. So listen, really glad that you're here with us. And when was the last time we did a live read? A few weeks.
It's been a while.
Been 3 weeks. And that's because the only live reads were when we were doing hurricane relief. Or
Harvey
hurricane
relief.
Harvey. Yeah, I know, because there have been so many since then. Watch, someone in the comment section, what are you doing for Puerto Rico? Nothing, they're on their own. We did a lot for Harvey, and we're going to tally up those numbers and get them for you next week. So that was our how many food kits, and just a dollar amount, how many dollars went to the Houston Food Bank. Because, by the way, I know all these other hurricanes have happened, they're in the news, but it's still going on. So thank you so much, and the relief is going to be, I think, pretty significant for them. But louderwithcutter.com/mug club. For people who are watching this on Thursday, we do this deal every single day. We do it every day.
Clint Howard's not fair. Clint Howard's
not every day.
So
he does show up without pants, but he's not necessarily on the show. And it's $69 annually if you're a student, veteran, military. It's a wonderful hand-etched mug. You get that, and you also get access to not only us, but Mark Levin, Michelle Malkin. I don't know. I don't know if they're new. I don't know if they've been announced yet. The new names. I'm not entirely sure, but there's one that's either this week or next week, and then there are going to be a couple more. And by the way, if you want also more Owen Benjamin, you can tweet him and let him know at Owen Benjamin. People really liked him coming in here and working on sketches, but
you got to bully them.
Mug Club, it ain't easy, baby. It ain't easy. It allows us to hire more people because all the demonetization on YouTube is happening, and ironically, this is what allows us to keep the content on YouTube. So you see a lot of these people hit the tip jar, hit Patreon, keep this content free. Well, we're going to do free content no matter what, but we're only able to do it if more people join the club, and we didn't want to do it with just standing there with their cup out. That's the Tom Hardy Warrior. We wanted to actually provide some value added, and we're bringing on more people. You keep 12 people entirely employed, made in America, because, we don't hire anyone who speaks Spanish. louderwithcrowder.com/mug club, and some pretty cool things are coming down the pike for members. So get the mug while you can. It might just go away. It might go away.
It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Come cheer up my nights, come cheer up my nights. It's better to have loved and lost.
All right, glad to have our next guest. Always a great intro. I'm sure this is why the bookers, the producers say they're not coming back.
They're not coming back.
You can follow him on Twitter at Rick Santorum, Senator, United States former Senator. Guy right now he's all over the television and the interwebs. Senator Santorum, thanks for being with us, sir.
Thank you, Stephen. Good to be with you for the first time, actually.
On the show, that's true. On the show, yeah. We know each other. I was just at his daughter's wedding in Ireland, and I was telling him it was wonderful. It was in a castle, and after that, nothing I've done for my wife is good enough. Thank you for that, sir. Yeah, you're just enriching one life at a time.
Standard.
Yeah, exactly. We literally walk in to an old Irish castle, and I'm sitting there going, okay. I know what's gonna happen when I get home. It's gonna have an argument, and I'm like, well, you never got me an Irish castle. And, oh, is that again? Okay, so you're obviously making the rounds. For people who don't know, we have this bill now. This bill, it looks like it might get passed. Republican health care bill. Graham Cassidy. Let's put Jimmy Kimmel's comments aside for a second. Give us kind of just the summary of it for people who have no idea. How is it different from the other bills that never went through?
Yeah, it's similar in some respects and different in a major respect. It's similar in that both bills block grant Medicaid. So it takes a federal entitlement Medicaid and it puts it on in a it's actually called a per capita cap. What's that mean? That means that they're going to get so much money per person under Medicaid, and so it's not an open-ended entitlement anymore. In other words, we're going to give so much per person. We're not just going to reimburse whatever the state spends. So that's some limitation on the growth of Medicaid. Frankly, it's not a whole lot because we grow the cap, if you will, every year by the rate roughly of medical inflation, a little higher in the early years, at medical inflation in the later years. So what does that mean? The people who are complaining about that, and this was, again, in the other bill, so it's the same as in our bill. Yeah. The people who are complaining about are saying that this is a big cut to Medicaid. But think about this, Stephen. We're growing the Medicaid pot because, the per capita allocation for each person is going to grow at medical inflation. That's the aggregate inflation in medicine.
Sure.
And so what we're saying is Medicaid is now going to have to grow at that level that all medicine is growing at.
Right. Well, it's very comparable, I would say, for a lot of people, because we've talked about this in the show quite a bit, in ways to the idea of a school voucher program, where instead of just giving it into an endless supply of a public school that isn't working, you attach it to the student. And in that case, more students would go to public schools than private schools, so there would be a larger pool.
So the bottom line is, this is really the key, though. The growth rate is what people are complaining about. They're saying that's an unrealistic growth rate. But think about this. Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris and all these people went out. Cory Booker went out last week and said, we need Medicare for everybody because it's a more efficient, and it's a better system, it's better quality, and it's lower cost. But they're complaining that Medicaid with a cap at medical inflation is going to fail. Yeah. So think about it. What's medical inflation? Well, that's the aggregate amount that everybody spends on medical care. And if Medicaid is going to fail because it can't keep up with the average, which means they're higher costs.
Right, exactly. Well, there's a lot of people don't realize fewer and fewer doctors are taking it as well. It's become a real problem. And when we talk about the people who are left in the cold because of the Affordable Care Act, there are tens of millions of Americans who can no longer afford their plans. There are millions who their plans that included Medicaid aren't taken. My in-laws, they've had a real problem with it. So I think the issue you're running into, because you're trying to make sense of the hypocrisy from Bernie Sanders, none of that is the case. It's just that it's a human right. That's the end game. So they don't want to work with you on that.
No, they don't. But that to me, that's a very reasonable way of approaching the Medicaid program. We keep that. That was in the original bill. Here's the big difference. The big difference is that's traditional Medicaid. That's Medicaid before Barack Obama expanded Medicaid. So what we do in our bill is we take the Medicaid expansion and eliminate it. We take the tax credits that are given to people on Obamacare exchanges and eliminate it. We take the cost-sharing reduction payments that are given to insurance companies to lower the cost of deductibles, and we eliminate it. We take the Medicaid, the exchanges, no longer. We take all of the regulations. We allow a lot of waivers in those regulations. So all of that is changed. Sorry about that. Obama must not have.
It's the federal government runs your electric over there. Let's give it back to the states.
Okay. So all of those things are repealed. And what's it replaced with? Well, by the way, the individual mandate is repealed and the employer mandate is repealed.
Okay.
So all of those things, basically Obamacare is repealed.
Right.
What we then do is take all the tax money that's left because Obama increased taxes, and we take that money and we divide it up to the states equally over time. Not originally, but we phase it in. But by the end of the 7 years of this block grant, every state will get the same amount per capita for the poor people they have in their state, so they can provide a innovative, state-specific, quality-driven system of health insurance and health providing for each state in America. So we get the money out of Washington, get it equally divided to the states, allow them to innovate, allow them to create high-risk pools or health savings accounts, or if they want to put, Obamacare, recreate Obamacare. I'm in California right now. They want to recreate Obamacare in California, they can recreate Obamacare here. If they want to put back the individual mandate, they can put back the individual mandate. But every state is going to have the ability to develop their own system, and it'll be driven by two things. Number one, there's a limit. We put a cap on how much money we're going to spend. So unlike Obamacare, which is open-ended entitlement, there's a limit on how much money we're going to give the states, and they have to live within that budget. That's going to drive cost containment, which is the best way to get cost containment is improving quality. So we think we will have a lower cost, more efficient, quality-driven system in all the different states around the country.
So we know why the left opposes it. We know why Jimmy Kimmel wants to, kick your ass effectively. That's what he's going around now. Apparently he's taking out the brass knuckles for Brian Kilmeade.
Just tossing his baby at you as
he's just literally throwing. What children do we have that we can throw politically? So we know why the left is against it, but I've heard you also say, hey, listen, this is why the right needs to support it. So there's been some apprehension from more traditional conservatives. I think I know the reason, but I'd like to hear kind of what it is they've expressed to you and why they do need to get behind it at this point.
Well, Rand Paul's sort of been leading that charge, saying that we leave in 85 to 90% of the taxes that Obama levied to fund Obamacare, and we leave the spending in place. And the answer to that is we do. We do cut, although, $250 billion in taxes. We do reduce spending by $400 billion. We do get the money out to the states. And we end 2 in federal entitlements. So, not bad.
Baby steps.
As far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But I hearken back, this is before you were born, 20 years ago, when I was...
Oh, thank you. You're far too kind. All right. I'll forgive you for the Irish castle opulence. Continue.
So 21 years ago to be exact, I was the author of a bill that passed the United States Senate and signed by President Clinton called welfare reform. And there were there was a guy by the name of Locke Faircloth, who was a senator from North Carolina, who voted against. He was the only Republican that voted against this bill. They got every other Republican to vote for it, 51 of them, to vote for it, because it didn't cut enough taxes and it didn't cut enough spending.
Right.
And the reason is because we spent a lot of money. And the reason we spent a lot of money in welfare was that's how we got bipartisan support. We put enough money in a block grant to the state to reform the welfare system. But here's what we did. We gave the states, the governors, the flexibility to reform the program. And guess what happened? Within 3 years, the welfare rolls were cut in half. Within 3 years, poverty hit some of the lowest rates. In fact, in the most hard hit, impoverished, subcategories had the best growth in income. We got more people employed who were lower income, particularly single, never married mothers, highest rates of employment ever recorded.
Yeah.
All because we gave the governors the flexibility and the resources to be able to get people off welfare, into work, and into productive lives.
Well, I understand, finding a middle ground to compromise so that we can something is better than nothing. But I'm sure we can both agree it just takes the wrong guy down the line unless something is the dragon is cut off at the head where, you have another President Obama and people are concerned that, now it's all back in play, as it often happens with government.
Here are the options. It was not coincidental that the day that Lindsey Graham and Bill Cassidy and Dean Heller and Ron Johnson and I I hung around. We were at a press conference introducing this bill. Later on that day, Bernie Sanders introduced his Medicare for All.
Yeah.
And just think about the optics of this.
Well, the legal term is crazy uncle proposed a bill again. That's how it's referred to. Let's use the proper vernacular, but continue.
Medicare for All is a little catchy, though. A little easy to remember.
So the interesting about those two press conferences, they both had the same underlying point. Obamacare doesn't work. Because if Obamacare worked, Bernie wouldn't be introducing a fundamentally different way of dealing with health care. So now the left and the right agree, Obamacare has failed, and now the American public has their choice. They can do a plan that says 50 different healthcare systems developed at people closest, at the states and people closest to the people to make more localized solutions, or one-size-fits-all government-run healthcare by the Democrats. That's your choice, and that's the vote coming up next week.
Hold on, Gerald has a question here.
Yes,
Gerald.
Senator Santorum. I feel like this is kind of like college football, where I support a team that gets beat at the last minute, and I just can't do it anymore. As a Republican, as somebody who's had his insurance go crazy, I don't know that there's just two choices in our minds. Right now, there are two choices, but there's this third option of no, you got to come up with something a little bit better. How do you get over the hurdle of communicating that this is a good path to go? Because I'm with you. I'm all for the states having the right to control this. But it doesn't seem like everybody's jumping on the bandwagon on both sides so that, like Steven said, it doesn't just go back the next time we get somebody from another party coming in. How do you deal with that?
This is the cool thing about sending the money out to the states. Once the states have these resources and develop their own plan of how to deal with insurance markets and the pre-existing, all these things that we're going to give them the flexibility to deal with, they're never going to give this money back. They'll never let it.
You know what? That's a very good point.
Come on, give it back, Michigan.
No.
Ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So this puts a stake through the heart of single payer.
Right.
That's one of the biggest selling points of this is not a single Democratic governor, if they've helped develop this system in their state, is going to say, oh, no, we'll end this and let the federal government take this from us. No way. Not going to happen.
Yeah, it really does seem like it's a battle of optics at this point. Everyone agrees. And that was one thing when Senator Santorum was running and it was down to him and Mitt Romney. I remember being on Fox News. I said, listen, this is at the time when, at this point, the Affordable Care Act is at an all-time, it's never going to be less popular than right now because there were so many problems with it. I said, what is Mitt Romney going to do? And I like Governor Romney, but he went up in that second debate and he just sidestepped it. And I remember going, this is the time to do it. So the lights just went out. See, literally, as we were talking. Are you?
It's the second coming again.
He's in Utah. Ron said, all right, click. All right, before we go, we just had, by the way, Clint Howard says hi. I don't know. He was on the show right before. He was in a hot tub, I presumably nude. So I don't know what that says, but he said, "I really like Senator Santorum. I met him at FOA, and I don't know if you remember him, but it's a tough mug to forget." I'm very uncomfortable with this. Okay, well, where can people read more about this bill for people who don't know? Because it's tough to kind of wade through all of the muck with this.
Well, actually, there are two good op-eds in the Wall Street Journal today that I would recommend to you that I think did a very good job. Obviously. You can go to both Senator Cassie and Senator Graham's website that has all the details that you'd ever want to have on the bill. A lot of the myths, they posted something up just, I think, yesterday or today on all the misinformation, like, we're not covering people with pre-existing conditions, the Jimmy Kimmel test. That's garbage. Yeah. What we do is we tell the states you have to cover pre-existing condition, but we're going to give you flexibility on how you do it. Right. So there can be innovative solutions to provide better and more affordable care for those with pre-existing condition. This is the kind of stuff, for Jimmy Kimmel and for people with simple minds, and they may be the same person, that if you don't say the federal government makes you do it, then it doesn't count. Yeah. Well, you know what? There are many ways to deal with providing good quality, accessible, and affordable health care, and we want to make sure that happens and make sure everybody gets the best quality care at the best price.
I want the federal government to take over late night. And then watch. Just have Bernie Sanders will have a show.
Hasn't it already happened?
Yeah, pretty much. They go out to all the same dinners. All right, that is Senator Rick Santorum. You can follow him at Rick Santorum. I think Senator Santorum is too long for the Twitter handle. It's too long. People won't remember. Thank you so much, Senator, for taking the time. And I hope, people, let us know in the comment section what you think about this bill, where you're lining up. We always want to have our finger to the pulse and see where they are. It seems as though there's a split. So hopefully something gets done. Thank you.
Take a slice when you can get it. That's one of the things the Democrats have done all over for 40 years. They take a little bit at a time, and all of a sudden you realize what happened.
You realize the pie is rhubarb.
We want to win big or go home. Don't win big, go home. You take the first down, move the ball down the field.
There you go. Fair analogy. Senator Rick Santorum, thank you so much for taking the time, sir. There's music. That means we have to go. Oh, there we go.
Greetings, Lotto of Cardo viewers. Hopper here. You may have noticed my new friends. I got them at LottoWithCardoShop.com, where you can get your shirt with the Socialism is for Figs, and the Firearm shirt, and there's some really cool clothes. I have to wear the woman's one because it fits better.
riptide almost got me.
I was blacked out there.
Almost got me on the riptide. Do you ever wonder what people think who listen to the audio-only version of this?
Sometimes I wonder.
I'm like, why are you still? But sometimes people are on the road, so we appreciate you listening audio only. Join Mug Club. Thank you, Senator Rick Santorum. A little different. We don't often have politics, but you know, he's making the rounds.
He's a good guy.
I do think he explained it in a way that is actually pretty.
Yeah, it's helpful. Very helpful.
Thank you, Clint Howard. Next time, wear pants. And thank you to Phelim and Ann. We very much appreciate it. And have a busy week next week. There will be no show on Wednesday. You'll find out why on Thursday. We can't divulge that information yet. But should be good. I also think I'm doing a segment over there with Stefan Molyneux on his show.
Be good.
We're doing a mock debate on abortion.
Ooh.
So yeah, we did a mock debate before, and people for some reason still think that I was pro tearing down Confederate statues.
No, who's going to take which stance?
They want me to take the pro-life stance because the last time I had to take the sort of just.
But I get your opposite. Real argument.
I just had to take the contrarian stance last time.
That's a better word for it.
Yeah. I tried to give you the rope, and
you're good with the words.
Yourself with
this is why we give you the words.
You mealy-mouthed son of a bitch. So I am. Actually, So this is the last segment, and I turned to Not Gay Jared and I said, "What do you have?" He said, "Nothing," because I don't have any thoughts.
It's just empty up there. I can't figure out why.
But I did apologize to Jared this week, and I'll apologize when we Not Gay Jared on air because we had some issues. And he was wrong on some of them, but then I was wrong because I told him to stop acting like a little bitch.
You did.
I actually said that, and afterwards, right, even no matter how wrong he was before that, okay. And I said, listen, apologies, no ifs, ands, or buts, and moved on. And I've had to do that this week a little bit. We've been kind of in, I don't want to say a pressure cooker. You'll see again next Thursday why we don't have a video, why we don't have a show next Wednesday, and it's because of a super video and one that actually safety concerns.
Sure.
And there are a lot of things happening with the studio. There are a lot of things happening with Mug Club and CRTV and new shows coming on. And so there's been a lot. Sometimes you just have those weeks where there's just too many plates spinning. And that's what Jordan Peterson said with me, that defensive, reactive aggression.
Also, you're 3% politeness.
3% politeness. That is a portion of it. But you know what? The truth is, yeah, there are things that I'm working on. I know that there are things that Not Gay Jared is working on. I know there are things that Sound Guide was working on. I know that there are things that everybody is working on. I had this conversation with my wife about it because I've learned to apologize. I've done it a lot throughout my life. And I hope people in my life understand, and I think most people do, that when you make mistakes, it doesn't necessarily come from malice. That's a big thing. And here's how I think that most people around tend to know that. If you just look at Jared and Gerald and the people who work in this office, and I'm going to tie this around to, well, Jimmy Kimmel, you look at Vox, you look at how just inauthentic they are with, well, we support free speech, but someone's saying that and writing that on Vox.com, right? Writing, yes, I support free speech, and then the whole article is not supporting free speech. When I see that, I don't just think, hey, this person is a liar. I think, hey, this person is a fraud. And what's crazy is, Vox has, I don't know how many hundreds of employees. They're comfortable putting that out there with headlines saying they support free speech and knowing they don't because they must be surrounded by people who don't know or don't care that they're a fraud. You think the people in the office at Vox don't know? They go, oh yeah, Clark said he's pro-free speech in that headline. They all know that he's not. But they're surrounded by people who don't care. They're surrounded by people who have no standard as to integrity. And I think that's one thing we have in our office. We talk about it a lot. We send out memos. We say, hey, listen, everyone needs to have a good attitude. You need to look out for the guy next to you. If someone comes down on someone, there's a system of obviously, I wouldn't use the word boss, but there are people, there are different hierarchies. If someone comes down on someone, it's usually, hey, listen, the guy next to you had to make up for that work. It doesn't come from hating somebody. And so even if I know that I can be curt, these are things that I need to work on. I'm just an open book. I said, Jared, stop acting like a little bitch. I was wrong. Now, he was, but I shouldn't have said it. How many people get an apology from their boss live on air? You're welcome. You and your cheekbones.
I'll sign over my check.
You and your Dickie Green cheekbones. And you'll understand why next Thursday. Why there's no show Wednesday. And this is then I can explain the discussions as to what went down. It'll make a lot more sense. Like, oh, I can see how there was some pressure there on both sides. So people can be flawed, and I am deeply flawed. I think everyone knows it. But if for me to not be a good man, or for me to not try and be a good man, would make me a fraud. And it would be an office that I could not walk into tomorrow, let alone day in and day out. If I were to come out here and tell you, hey, I believe that conservatives should do a better job, for example, of paying their employees, at least a fair wage, because I've talked about that with conservative nonprofits. I've talked about working with other conservative organizations. I've talked about media entities who offered to hire me for no money, asked me to move across the country. You've heard me talk about that on the show. If I were to say that on the show and talk about how disgusting it were, and everyone in this office knew that I was paying them like, I'd be a fraud. If I were to come out here and say, you know what, hey, family really matters. And I think that before federal government, before state government, you're talking about the central building block is the family. And everyone in this office knew that I treated my family like crap, that I hated my wife, that I didn't have a good relationship with my parents. Guess what? They know really quickly that I'm a fraud. I'd be exposed really quickly. And I'm not just saying this because it's not to be self-aggrandizing, or even if any other people on this team, because they're the heroes, the unsung heroes in this story. They're the ones who are going to keep someone accountable. But it is a really good place to be. I will say this, if you can set up your life, you look at Vox, you look at Huffington Post, you look at Slate, you look at what once was Gawker. These are entire businesses set up, Jimmy Kimmel, set up around avoiding the truth. They say, don't talk religion and politics. Why? Because these people don't practice what they preach. They don't believe these things. And so they set up a system that allows for fraud. They set up a system, a hierarchy. They set up an office place that allows them to lie to people on their shows, that allows them to lie in their columns, I support free speech. And a good example, Tom Hanks, remember seeing him on MSNBC, he said, yes, World War II, the United States only entered because of racism and fear. I remember sitting there going, you don't have anyone in your life who will say, that's retarded, sir. That's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard, because they set up a life where they can be a fraud and no one calls them on it. If you can set up your life, I will say this, we've done it with this office, we've done it with this program, we've done it with louderwithcreditor.com. Courtney's not shy to let you know if she's angry about something. If you can do that with your life and set it up so that you can't be a fraud because everyone around you knows it and they'll call you out on it, that's a really good place to be, especially if not being a good person, if not being a good man is what makes you fraudulent. You want to know how you get better? You want to know how you increase your capacity for whatever it is, whether it's intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. You surround yourself with people who will call you on your crap, people who will tell you if you're not a good man. And I know a lot of people who don't. I've had people recently, a friend who I was talking with, going like, yeah, my friends just don't think about these issues. They just don't really care about it. I'm going, okay, so let's say you screw up. Let's say you don't really treat your wife really well. Let's say you're violating your own conscience. Who of your friends is going to tell you? Who's going to, they don't really like to talk about that stuff. They just want to have a good time. Yeah, don't talk religion and politics, because it sifts through the frauds really quickly. And I realized that this week when I had to sit down, and I'm the boss technically, but even my wife was like, hey, you know what? Kind of a dick. You have to apologize for that. If I didn't have that, and if I didn't have that every single day at every check mark, doesn't mean I'm perfect, doesn't mean I don't have a long way to go. I would develop into the biggest fraud that you could possibly imagine, because when people aren't calling you on it, all they're doing is complimenting you. All they're doing is praising you, and it becomes one big ego stroke. You wonder, how does Jimmy Kimmel get so out of touch, man? You wonder, how do the Emmys have no self-awareness whatsoever that not every single person in the country could possibly disagree? How does, like we were talking about with Ann and Phelim, how do these actors in Hamilton think that it's okay to berate the Vice President of the United States? How are they not aware that half that audience might disagree? Because they have been allowed to be frauds their entire life. And that happens when you make the first decisions. Who you surround yourself with, how you act, and how you act when those people react. Being a fraud, if you're not a good person, that's a really good place to be. It means you've got a solid foundation. I'm grateful for it. See you next week with not Clint Howard.